like, well, see, this is why Nia and Danny have like the perfect relationship.
Yep.
That rubs everyone wrong, where she's like, oh, we don't do it. And then finally they get her to say, oh yeah, Jamie Fraser, because that's not like a real thing. And he dressed up as Jamie Fraser last year. She's like, yeah, that's what it is, because it's not a real thing. And everyone's rolling their eyes.
Listener discretion advised. Adult language and mature content.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. I'm Jen.
I'm Keeley.
And we are two queens, one screen. And it has been a really busy week, but luckily we are able to seek refuge in the Valley.
The Valley.
And we hit episode 5.
Episode 5, people, and we still have not seen Sheena Shea, Lala Kent, Brock, or Tom Schwartz. And they continue to be on the after show.
Did we? I thought we saw Tom. Have we not even seen
we
Tom?
did see Tom and his ghost hand try to be nice to Jax. But when are we going to see them? It's just weird and awkward that they're on the after show and they're not in the actual.
I think it's weird that Brock is there. I think it's weird that Lala is there.
Yeah.
Because at least they're calling Sheena Shea because she's at parties. So at least that's happened. Although Brock usually has something fun to say. Matt and I were actually discussing the fact that we love the pairing of, in the after show, Brock and Jason. Because Brock makes
weird.
up for what Jason lacks.
Yeah.
They don't spend any time together. We don't know that they're friends, but it is fun to pick up on at least that in the after show. Ugh. But they are in Santa Barbara. They are at that gorgeous house. It's first thing in the morning, and Jesse is walking around with a glass of wine.
Oh, God. 8 o'clock in the morning. Here we are.
And apparently he's ends up downing 2 bottles of champagne by himself during the morning as the morning goes on.
Oh, that's regular behavior, apparently.
I guess.
I don't know.
And we just kind of slowly see everyone waking up. My favorite people waking up that morning, Brittany and Zach.
Oh, God, yeah.
Can we talk about Zach's side table? Brittany's making fun of him. She's like, why do you have a 2-liter of Coke? And he's like, I also have onion dip. He's got water bottles. He's got Coke. He's got onion dip. He's got a Pop-Tart. When you have a fun night out, are you a snacker? Do you grab a lot of snacks?
I don't have to have a fun night out to have snacks. I have snacks right now, and they consist of mostly chocolate. There's a lot of candy in my night side table drawer.
The last couple weeks I've had Matt getting me the big bags of the little Dove chocolates. Yep. Where it's there's 3 different flavors, and then every time you open one up, it's just a little 2-bite chocolate, and then it has a you go girl on the inside of it. And I always read it in Darcy Stacy. Mm-hmm. And they're like, 1 step forward is still progress, girl. And I have that. I usually have several cans of bubbly soda. And here's my salty snack that I'm really into. Have you tried the Old Bay goldfish?
No.
They are insane. Sam, you know how the goldfish, they have the giant carton of it that looks like a big milk carton?
Yes.
Sam goes, oh, I want this one. And it's Old Bay flavored. And we're like, do you even know if you like that? That's a lot of goldfish. If you don't like them, then we have to figure out where to put that in the pantry. Yeah. No worries, Sam. Mom and Dad have cleared that thing out. Oh. It is so good. I've eaten so many of those things. Okay. They're so addicting. Everyone, just like the Post Malone Oreos, you need to go get the Old Bay goldfish.
All right.
Delicious.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. And Zach even said he fell asleep with the onion dip on his chest. Yeah. While he was eating it.
They're going around and watching everyone wake up. And at one point, Jesse's chatting with a couple people about how disappointed he is in Michelle for how cold she's been to him. and that he's very triggered by her behavior at the circle. You're like, you were the one that threw the ball at her. And you're surprised that she wasn't sweet and warm.
Yeah.
Especially after how you've been acting. We'll talk more about Jesse, but the delusion that he lives in, that this is all her being awful to him, is a little frustrating.
He does give us his definition of maturity, which is everyone be able to put aside what you're going through personally for the group. Okay.
I think it's addressing and moving on.
No.
It's moving through. Instead, he's like, shove it down.
No.
Shove it down inside, which he can't do very well either.
No, he can't do that. Thanks.
So he doesn't fit either of those definitions of maturity.
Thanks.
Also, Zach and Brittany are in bed. Brittany, first thing in the morning, is already getting texts from Jack. Zach's like, so what Jacks are you getting this morning? And she's like, nice Jacks. He's realizing that maybe he is at fault for something here. And he texts her that he isn't depressed. It's actually, he's been diagnosed as bipolar.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not going to say that Jax isn't bipolar. I'm going to say what we learn in the after show is Jax has been diagnosed bipolar before. I didn't think it surprised anybody.
No.
But Brittany says that he was diagnosed and got a prescription, and the prescription sat in her drawer for a year, and that she and his sister, he's constantly talking about how close he is to his sister.
Yeah.
She and his sister are begging him to take his medication, and he's refusing to do it.
Yeah.
Zach brings up that if you are diagnosed bipolar, and that if it is true about Jax, which it does make sense, it could be another thing that he's lying about. Remember when he had breast cancer? But if that's true, that's something that needs to be regulated with medication, like really strictly. I think that's one of the biggest downfalls of people who have that diagnosis. It's very difficult to stay regimented on that.
Yeah.
Is my understanding.
Well, and you need to find the correct medication that works for you. A lot of people have to go through different medications to get the correct one, the actual correct one, not the correct dosage, the correct one. He didn't even fill the prescription he was given. He claims on the after show that he filled the prescription for Lexapro and it didn't work and it was for depression.
And he tried it for 2 weeks.
What?
And he didn't feel any different.
He doesn't make any sense.
No. I think it's whatever is the most convenient thing and it fits whatever his narrative is at the time. I had also watched an interview about him where he was talking about this diagnosis. And then it was also harkening back to a lot of people are calling out Brittany and saying, you stayed with him over, like victim blaming, but you knew what you were getting into. This isn't the first time. This isn't your first rodeo. People have tried to be very supportive of you not going back with him. Why would you go back with him? And I watched a clip where he was on one of the reunion shows with Brittany after he had cheated on her with Faith.
Yeah.
And they're back together. And I never put two and two together. A big reason they got back together, and she even says it, is because he was texting and calling and texting and calling, and it was relentless. And then he lost his dad. And she went to support him. She was like, I was trying to do what I thought was right at the time, which was going and being there for him. She basically got guilted back into this relationship with him because she felt, he was like, why are you abandoning me? I know that I hurt you, but please don't abandon me in this time where like I'm alone and by myself. Mm-hmm. I need help. I need someone here. And she went and even he says like she got him through that awful time.
Yeah. So
why did she go back? Because she thought it was the right thing to do. She loved him and cared about him. And even though he hurt her, she was like, he needs me.
Yeah.
Then she got sucked back into this cycle all over again.
Yeah.
So I think it's really unfair that people are calling her out with this back and forth, which we see throughout. I think we're going to see throughout this season, but we've already seen throughout this trip.
Yeah. And Zach even said he thinks that Brittany's been trauma trained, which I thought was a good expression to use because she can't.
Trauma Trained is so good.
She can't put the phone down, right? No. And he said you need actual physical space from Jax and from your phone, right? When we get into when they have dinner and she's looking at her phone and everybody's like, give me the phone. But at this point, when they're laying in bed, Zach says, I think she's trauma trained. Jax did that to her and she can't stop. That's a really good word to use.
I feel like you see her anxiety when she starts getting those texts, like she has to be reading them because it's going to get worse if she doesn't. Yeah. Which if anyone's ever dealt with someone like that, they'll show up. Yeah. You know, it's only going to escalate until they get what they want. And that is probably very terrifying for her. Yeah. But they're all getting ready for their day, and Jesse has set up a wine tasting for them. I have said this before and I stand by it. Nothing good happens on a party bus. If you're in one of those Sprinter vans, it's not going to go well. There's no good thing going on in that.
When there's a stripper pole in the middle and we've got neon lights flashing. Nope.
And I think everyone went into it like pretty chill except for Jesse Lally.
Of course, he's overacting, right? Laying across people's laps and twerking. Even Jason said, what is he doing? Please stop. He's annoying.
Everyone was sick of him to the point that even the bus was like, I can't fucking deal with this. Right. And the bus breaks down. Yeah. One of the things that I really enjoyed about this, I had Matt give me a ranking of who he actually likes, because Matt and I often end up on different sides when we watch this show, which is very surprising to me because like he's always been a Tom Sandoval fan. He's like, yeah, they're idiots and they're terrible, but like how fun are they? He just loves them. And I'm like, no, I'm so fucking frustrated with Tom Sandoval. I hate him so much. But Matt is like, no, he's great. So I was like, so who do you like? And Matt's like, Kristen is my number one, which makes no sense. Jason and Danny and Nia, because they all make sense. And I was like, oh, do you like Luke? And he was like, no, I don't like Luke because it doesn't make sense that Luke is with these people. However, Luke is the only person that got out and went, oh, your engine, whatever. Yeah. The circulation, I don't know anything about cars. But he was looking at it and he's like, oh, that's what's leaking. There's a crack. You can't go up. We got to turn off the AC, but you can go back down to the gas station. We'll be fine. Like he knows more about this thing than the guy that was driving it. Yeah. That I thought was fun and impressive. So that's the only nice thing I have to say about Luke. Is that he's the only one of all of those people who could have helped in that situation.
Yeah, Luke is manly. He's the only manly person there. He could build a house from the ground up. He could catch you some dinner in the outdoors, right? He could build you a fire. None of those men could do any of those things.
No, he actually, at one point, Jesse says that they eventually do get to the wine tasting. And Jesse's pointing out at this beautiful pond at the winery. And he goes, oh my God, it's like a Monet. It's like Monet. It's so beautiful. And Luke very sweetly turns around and goes, I've never been there, but it is beautiful. And Jesse's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Monet is a painter, and just calls him out, makes him sound like an idiot. And Luke just rolls with it. And he's like, I don't know. You always say like Capri and Manet and Saint-Tropez. I thought it was something like that. And he's like, you, sir, are uncultured. And Luke throws back at Jesse, and you, sir, are not manly. Yeah. Which I think that there's all sorts of ways to be a strong, manly man. But I would say that Luke does tend to exhibit those very traditional male stereotype roles. He can fix a car. He can build a cabin. He hunts and fishes. He really only shows happiness and anger as emotions.
Yes. Yeah.
He looks like a Temu Tintin, but I did like that for him.
Yeah. That was good.
They end up having to take Ubers, but they get to the winery. The winery was really gorgeous. They've got this whole table set up. It's so nice. Everyone's trying the wine. No one's very sophisticated when trying the wine other than Jesse, and so then everyone's making fun of it and being silly. At one point, they're all getting a little loose, and Janet turns to Zach and goes, Zach, I gotta tell you something. Mm-hmm. When we were not good, I told people that your hair is a wig. And what was so great about that is Zach loved hearing that. He's like, are we friends again? Like, oh my God. So that was actually very nice. I'm glad that they're going to be moving forward. I really hope there's no more petty shit between the two of them, because we wade into some pretty petty nonsense very quickly.
Yeah. Because Danny shows up.
Right. Danny. By the way, I'm team Danny all the way. Especially last time we talked about it, they had talked about how he had misbehaved on Halloween. This episode, was he a stellar version of himself? No. I am 100% on his side, though. Danny apologized. I don't think he did anything wrong that's that serious. 3 under 3 people. So Danny shows up late because he had worked. He had to drive all the way down, do some voiceover work, come back, and he starts drinking to catch up, and he's chugging the wine, having a fun time. I thought he was silly and fun. I would hang out with him.
So then Michelle gets a call from the nanny that's with Isabella. And of course, Jesse has to insert himself and say, I want to talk to Isabella. Mm-hmm. So they walk over to another table to sit down alone.
Which was not the time. We know he had at least, 2-3 bottles of wine in him.
Yeah. And Michelle's thinking he's going to apologize for the
calling
escort.
Her an escort.
Yeah. And he starts to say, look, that white flag thing was a joke. Asks her, are you happy? And she says, I'm happy if you weren't around, which is lovely and funny. And I wrote down she's matching his energy, which I love, because people like him cannot handle that. They don't like it. They don't want to see it. And they don't know how to react to it. And it's very wonderful to watch.
I think she handled it as well as you could handle it, because the part that bothered me about that was he actually repeated, are you happy? Then why can't you be happy for me? Like, he built this argument. He was going to say, like, she was going to say, yes, I am. Then why can't you be happy for me? And then he was going to make her look like the villain of this. She could see it. I mean, it was so transparent. Plus, he was drunk, so he wasn't delivering it terribly well. But she wasn't responding in the way that he needed her to for his follow-up to really flow. She's like, yeah, go be happy. He's like, why can't you be happy with my new girlfriend? She's like, go be happy with her. I'm just not comfortable because she's actively attacking me. And he's like, well, she spends 5 days a week with your daughter. She goes, well, she shouldn't be. And apparently the girlfriend has said, Isabella, I'm your second mommy. Or Jesse has said that.
Yeah.
So the woman that has publicly said that she's not exclusive with Jesse, and she's also dating the guy from Baywatch. Jesse is expressing, he says that he's in love with her. And somewhere between the two of them have told this little girl, this is your second mommy. I think that's so deeply fucked. And I think Michelle makes a really good point where she's like, there's going to be who knows how many of these women.
Yep.
It affects me. Go date whoever you want to date. It affects me when it affects my daughter. What are the rules for that? I guess it's different for everyone. She started dating someone very quickly after they broke up, and now she's been with Aaron for like a year or whatever. I feel like Jesse is being gross to introduce someone to his daughter that quickly. Right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think the rules are, I think it depends on, obviously, the couple, if they can sit down and talk about it. But it's an age thing with me. If your child is old enough that they think that you can handle introducing them to a significant other or someone you're dating, that they're like, oh, I can see that person with my parent and they're okay seeing that, then that's okay. But little children don't understand that. They don't understand why their dad is kissing and hugging and holding the hand of and with another person that's not their mom all the time. Even though they know mom and dad don't live together, they know that on the surface they don't understand why is he kissing her? They shouldn't be saying those things and or seeing it at the same time. Definitely not spending the night where this child wakes up and sees this woman walking out of the bedroom. But it's an age thing with kids.
Isabella's what, 5 or 6?
Yeah.
It just seems too little.
Yeah, it's way too little because they're very confused about it.
Right. And it seems like Jesse's confused about what their relationship is, right?
Oh, yeah. And I think Michelle's trying to be logical in this fight conversation with a drunk person. Mm-hmm. And it's just not going to end well.
Right. And he said that she's purposely getting under his skin in this moment. I cannot figure out what she did to get under his skin. I don't think that she said anything outrageous. He was like, well, I was just very triggered. Because what does he do? He starts telling her that she's a hooker. And
he's triggered because she's matching his energy. What I mean by that is she's saying, let me speak. Don't interrupt me. And I'm going to talk. That's what she's doing, is because that's what he does to her. And he doesn't like it. She takes control of the situation, and that's what's triggering him, because that's what he usually does. Mm-hmm. And that's why he's upset, on top of him being drunk, right? And he can't handle what's going on. The thing with him is, in this whole why can't you just be happy with me, is he probably in their relationship just beat her down, constantly went at her with whatever it is that he wanted her to agree to, over and over and over, until she finally gave in. Mm-hmm. And then it was done. That's what he's doing with this. Just be happy with me. Just be happy for me. Just be happy for me. Just be happy for me. He just wants her to give in and say yes, because that's probably what he's used to her doing. Mm-hmm. And now she's not doing it because she's done. It's over. And that's why he's triggered so bad.
Why is that? Like, I'm not going to give you more. This is what it was. At one point, he calls her the hooker, but then he also calls her a line-cheating whore. He screams that.
Yep.
For a kiss, which seems insane, because he also refuses to believe that she hadn't had an affair with Aaron before the relationship. Yeah. But if she had kind of checked out of the relationship a while ago, before she got to the point that she actually asked for a divorce, and she's genuinely ready to move on, yeah, she's going to move on pretty quick, because it's not like this breakup is new. She says, you're calling me a hooker. You're getting money from random rich people that are our friends. You've taken all this money as like wedding gifts from a gay guy. You got money from this guy for Isabella's birthday. You're accepting all of that cash. What's going on with that? Maybe you're the hooker. Maybe you're the escort. Mm-hmm. And Zach's in the corner going, don't rope gay people into this. We don't want him. Which I thought was really funny. Mm-hmm. But it just sucked, and it escalated. She gets up and she's like, you can't fucking say this to me. I'm the mother of your child. You got money from this guy for Isabella's birthday. You're accepting all of that cash. What's going on with that? Maybe you're the hooker. Maybe you're the escort. Mm-hmm. And Zach's in the corner going, don't rope gay people into this. We don't want him. Which I thought was really funny. Mm-hmm. But it just sucked, and it escalated. She gets up and she's like, you can't fucking say this to me. I'm the mother of your child. Which also, if you're in circles of people with serious wealth, do they just give you money? Like, is presents? How do I become friends with more rich people? Because that would be a delight.
Right. I don't know. For a half a second, I thought we had another Rob and Sophie on our hands, that he was getting money for some shots, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't think so. I don't get that. I don't get that vibe. Although I guess he took it personally that Zach was like, no, we are not into that. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't date you either, Zach. Zach's like, that's okay with me.
Yep.
But I did like that Brittany steps in once it escalated and there's yelling. And she does kind of get him to apologize. He's clearly so wasted at this point. Mm-hmm. She's like, you told everyone that she's an escort. You put it in the boys' chat. Mm-hmm. And it has now taken on a life of its own. You need to stop repeating this. Mm-hmm. And he goes, I never believed it. And I was just frustrated and venting. I didn't really believe it.
Yeah.
Okay, at least they've kind of put that to bed, but also he didn't fully apologize for it, and it's just like, let it go. Everyone gets back to the beach house, which was, again, gorgeous, and there's the chefs there. Jesse had set up these chefs to cook a meal for them. So everyone's going to go do a cool down and then come back down for this gorgeous dinner. And Jesse goes, Michelle, I really think we should talk. And she says, oh, he's not in a good place. There's still that, I think, part of him where she's like, that's the father of my daughter. I'm going to go check on him and make sure he's okay. And maybe we can have a better conversation now. And they end up on like a balcony, kind of secluded. Then it all just unravels again very quickly. This is where the second mommy thing comes up. The 5 days a week with Isabel comes up. She was cheating with Aaron. This is when he calls her a lying, cheating whore. She's like, I'm fucking done. I can't believe that I thought that you were going to be genuine in this moment. I can't believe that I thought I could move forward with you. She throws a glass of water on him.
Yeah.
It was cinematic. It was really, I feel like you need practice to do that well.
Yeah.
And it was so fluid for her. She starts saying, you want it all out there. You want to do this. Fine. My husband refused to hug me, to kiss me, to tell me I was pretty, and he spent all of our money. And everyone is downstairs looking at the ocean and listening into that conversation.
Yeah.
What did you think? It was a lot.
I just kept thinking he is trying to beat her down. I kept thinking, one, that I agreed with what she said, that he wanted her to validate his relationship because he wasn't happy in his relationship. And two, right, in their relationship, he must have just constantly beat her down to get her to agree to whatever they did for however long they were married, because that was his MO, because he just wouldn't leave it alone. And she's not doing that anymore. But it was just gross. The whole thing was disgusting and gross. And she has so much courage, and it was intense to watch. And I just think of all the people out there that don't like her, and I don't understand why they don't give her the benefit of the doubt. And I don't understand what they don't see and why they're so upset at her.
I think she comes across as very cold. I think she comes across as very, I don't know, frigid. Like, I think that's the way that she comes across. But now as things are going through and you're seeing the way that she's getting talked to,
yeah,
and you're seeing what she's having to deal with, it's like that is armor that she has had to build up. We're starting to see kind of the other side. And when she starts yelling about, you want it all to come out, let's have it all come out. You didn't give me any affection for years. You have spent all of our money. And all of the people are there downstairs listening to it. Jasmine's going, yeah, that all tracks. That makes sense. He had been in the boys' chat when she was pregnant, calling her fat.
Yeah.
Jax and Jesse are the same dude in a lot of ways. They're also saying he was posting pictures of himself with a $1,500 bottle of wine trying to impress everybody and doing all of this to flaunt his wealth. And we watch it every episode that he's doing this. And those were the things she was keeping inside to protect him. I would have thrown that out from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Because everyone sees him doing that. It's not news that he's calling her fat and putting her down. And last season, when he was trying to salvage the marriage and she was like, I don't know if I can be in it anymore. It's not like she blindsided him with this divorce. You know, we watched them going through counseling, trying to get this figured out. All of a sudden, he's like, oh, I'm going to tell her she's beautiful. Oh, for the first time in 3 years. And she's been taking care of your daughter while you're taking 8-hour lunches. And you think that she's the villain here?
Yeah.
It's gross. Super, super gross. But they end up separating them and everyone cools off and then they come back together for the dinner. One little thing that happens, and this is a super important thing that I want to talk about, and this is about Danny. Justice for Danny. Janet is a pot stirrer. Janet and Danny walked into a pantry. Danny was going to grab a White Claw. He didn't want it seen that he was grabbing a White Claw. Janet was in there getting snacks. And he also chugs tequila while he's in there. Like, he sneaks a shot while he's in there. And he's already pretty drunk because he had been trying to play catch up at the winery. Janet was like, I felt uncomfortable about this. I didn't like it. It was weird. It felt like I was in on a secret that I didn't want to be in on. Then they go to the dinner, except for Danny. Everyone's like, where's Danny? Someone go get Danny. Like, he should be here at dinner. And Nia's like, no, he's really tired. He got up. He had to drive late last night, and then he had to go to work, and that's hard. And then he had the long drive here, and he didn't sleep well, and it's been a long day. Like, he wants to nap. We're going to let him nap. I did try and get him up. And everyone's really, especially Jasmine and Zach, are really needling her to go get him. And she's like, no, I'm not. He's fine. I tried. He wants to nap. He might come down later and rally. It's fine. Just let him rest. And this turns into a thing, which I think we should probably end on. But it's this weird undercurrent at the table. Meanwhile, Jax is texting Brittany, and Brittany's on her phone. Everyone's trying to get Brittany off her phone. And she's like physically protecting her phone from everyone. Yeah. They're like, can you just not be on your phone at dinner? And she's like, no, I'm not really doing that. What do you think that was?
That's so hard. I think she's got PTSD, right? Like, she has to look at it and she feels some sort of way if she doesn't. And like you said, if it'll get worse if she doesn't look at it, like a drug addict, almost. She knows she shouldn't have it. She knows it's bad. She knows it's him. And she knows she should get rid of it and not look at it and block his number. But she can't stop herself. And I feel bad. That's so hard to watch. They have a weird trauma bond almost, right? Oh, yeah.
Part of me gets her needing to look at it. If I was at that table and I knew that I got the text messages, I think I would be too distracted to be present at the meal. Either way, she's going to be having to manage this. They bring it up with Jax. And he goes, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I don't know why, but he's also talking about he gets these bouts of rage. But now that he's, figured out that he's bipolar, it's more under control. When she's at the table, it's like he's figuring this stuff out and maybe it's getting a little bit better for him. At the same time, he clearly isn't getting any better because he's still to this day doing this shit to her. One of the things that becomes a real point of this episode is everyone's trying to get her to be off that phone. Nia says to her, you need to guard your heart. Like, this is hard. You need to back up. You need to guard your heart. Then Kristen goes, guys, because I don't want anyone to forget, Kristen is an empath. Self-diagnosed, self-proclaimed.
Oh, God.
And she's like, guys, I'm just really feeling all of the energy. So I really need this dinner to be light. Let's have light, fun conversation. Because she's dealing with the rumblings about Danny taking the shot. And she's dealing with the side notes of Brittany getting these awful text messages from Jax. And she's like, let's have a light conversation. Who is everyone's hall pass? Jason says his is Lady Gaga. Zach very quickly says that his is Channing Tatum. Luke was like, I don't know The Little Mermaid, which everyone was like, no. Some people had a problem because it was a cartoon. I had a problem because she's 16. Luke, you 30-year-old creep. And he's dating an older lady. What a weird thing. Kristen loved it. Nia refused to answer because they live in LA and they end up meeting a lot of celebrities often. So it seems inappropriate because what if they ran into their hall pass? It's not a good thing for their marriage. Everyone else answered, and then she like, we would never, because we make these rules for ourselves because we do interact with celebrities regularly. Who's your hall pass?
Brad Pitt.
I think I have two main ones, and one of Mark Ruffalo I really like. I really like Oscar Isaac. Matt doesn't really have any, which is boring.
I know, I don't think Steve
does. But it's because I have such a rockin' bod, he doesn't have time to think about anything else.
Well, Steve is so traumatized that I even have them, and I constantly just talk about him all the time. He's just shell-shocked.
Just like, well, see, this is why Nia and Danny have like the perfect relationship.
Yep.
That rubs everyone wrong, where she's like, oh, we don't do it. And then finally they get her to say, oh yeah, Jamie Fraser, because that's not like a real thing. And he dressed up as Jamie Fraser last year. She's like, yeah, that's what it is, because it's not a real thing. And everyone's rolling their eyes. Jasmine gets all into a tizzy because she had heard from Janet that Danny was sneaking tequila. Oh my God. Because Janet can't keep her mouth shut. And that she had told Brittany. And it got to Jasmine and Michelle. And they're like, oh, we've seen what happens when he drinks too much. They call him Dark Side Danny. And they don't want him to come to dinner because, you know, he was so inappropriate last Halloween, where he grabbed Jasmine's thigh and smacked Melissa on the butt, which then they called back to, and you watch him apologize again at the white party. And it seemed like he goes, that was really out of character for me. I'm really embarrassed that I did that. I'm so sorry. I would never want to make you feel uncomfortable. It was a good apology.
Yeah.
I don't know. What am I missing? What are the producers editing out? This is this big, horrible thing. Team Danny.
I think Jasmine and Melissa are super triggered. And I think they just need to excuse themselves from the dinner table. And why is it their problem? If they have that big of a problem, they need to leave. They need to say, this situation is bothering me so bad. I need to go excuse myself and take a breath and just leave, because they are the problem. Danny's not the problem. They are the problem.
They're going after Danny, and they're also going after Nia because she's not being genuine enough. Why aren't they saying what it really is? Danny's drunk. Why don't they just say it? And then they get Brittany all worked up, and they're like, Brittany, you know, you're being so open about what's going on in your life, and you're having to deal with all this, and they won't be open about, they're pretending they have this perfect marriage. You saw Nia earlier in the day have a couple like little snips at her husband. She's like, no, you need to listen to your wife. I need you to stop at the house. And she's like, sorry, everybody. But
yeah,
I don't think that she was talking disrespectfully to her husband. She was short with him, and she was getting irritated. She got interrupted by him while they were drunk in the car ride back from the winery, and she snapped at him then. But it wasn't like disrespectful. I thought it was like a normal like conversation that you could have with anybody that you're close with. And like, you just interrupted me, and I didn't like that. And then they moved on. I didn't see the problem here. And they're like, they're pretending that they have this perfect marriage, and they're pretending that they're so great, and they're pretending he's just tired because they have 3 kids and he was busy at work. They do have 3 kids. He was busy at work. He doesn't go out that often. He did get drunk. Nia wasn't saying that any of that wasn't true, but they're spinning it into Britt and Melissa and Janet. He
hasn't done anything, and they have acted like he has sexually assaulted them a second time. And it was really unfortunate and really disturbing to watch, because they are traumatized by what happened to them, which is fine. They need to work through that because something happened to them, but they are acting like he did something wrong, and he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. He took a nap.
Taking a nap.
Right.
He's asleep. He's leaving everyone alone.
Right.
He drank today, and then he took a shot of tequila.
Right.
Everyone there is wasted. Why is no one freaking out at Jesse for starting the day with 2 bottles of champagne?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, they should have excused themselves. They are the problem, not Danny.
Janet and they get Brittany so upset because they say Nia's not being genuine. And Zach, number 1 guy in the group, calling it. Fucking love Zach. I've totally 180'd on Zach. I love Zach. And he's like, the day before he had found out from Janet that Brittany had gone and had a lunch and was like, you need to know. So he's under the same set of rules and morals. He goes to Nia and is like, I just need you to know what's going on and what's being said. And you can see him going like, wait, was this a bad idea? Was this, oh, wait. But the cat's out of the bag at this point. So Nia goes in and confronts the ladies, and they're like, stop with the bullshit. Be real. And fucking Brittany's like, yeah, after everything I'm going through and you can't be honest. And she's like, so you're attacking me. You need to knock us down a peg to be on your level because you're going through this shit. Mm-hmm. I really respected Nia. I thought Nia was really standing up for herself in that moment when she was so clearly being attacked.
Yeah.
So yeah, justice for Danny and Nia, because right now I really hope next episode is a big apology to them.
Yeah. Yep. It just ended in the middle of that fight and Zach going, no, wait, hold on. No, wait, hold on.
And he's like, ooh, wait, I released the kittens.
Yep.
I can't deal with this. Oh boy.
Right. No.
And they're all like, you need to be honest. She's like, yeah, he's drunk. Yep. He's asleep because he's drunk. Yeah. Also, they have 3 kids under 3 and he works and he's tired and he doesn't drink that often.
And the entire house is drunk. So what are we talking about here?
And who, at the end of the episode, is the real voice of reason in all of this that is just such a mindfuck for all of us who have been watching this show for the last 12 years? Jesse and Kristen are like, oh my God, what is going on?
Happened?
Ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Ridiculous. So next episode, I don't even know where this is going to end up. I'm very excited and interested. All right. Well, I'm not going to say a lazy bones, but it's been an intense week. So I am just going to relax while you tell me a story time.
Oh, yeah, well, we were supposed to both watch
this is my bad.
True crime documentary that just came out on Netflix called A Deadly American Marriage, and it was super good, everybody. You should watch it. I never heard about this true crime, a wife and her dad murdering her husband back in 2015. In North Carolina. And I thought that was very interesting that the daughter and father would do that to the husband. So we meet Molly and Jason, who are married, Molly Martens and Jason Corbett, and they are the couple. And Tom Martens is Molly's dad. So Molly Martens and Tom Martens, that is father-daughter, okay? Jason is the husband. Jason is the deceased. And they start with the 911 call. So that is August 2nd, 2015 in North Carolina. And we get a 911 call where it's Tom calling 911. And he says, I need an ambulance to my home. And they say, what's going on? And he says, my daughter and her husband have had a fight and I intervened. I need an ambulance. And 911 says, well, what do you mean you intervened? And he said, well, my son-in-law was trying to strangle my daughter and I hit my son-in-law with a baseball bat and he's not breathing. And,
oh my gosh.
And 911 says, well, is he conscious? And he says, no. And they say, well, is he breathing? And he says, no, you need to get here as soon as possible. Cut to the detective, and her name is Detective Wanda Thompson. And she is really great. She's an older gal and a heavy set with glasses and long gray hair. This is about 3:00 in the morning. She heads over to this beautiful home in North Carolina, beautiful brick home. It's very large, probably more than 5,000 square feet. And you walk into the master bedroom and there is so much blood everywhere. There is blood spatter as you walk into the bedroom. There's blood spatter in the bedroom, going into the bathroom and into the hallway. There is so much blood in the bedroom, and is where he died. You can tell in the corner of the bedroom, in front of the bed, it looks like where he died, where they hit him with a baseball bat. There is a very big blood stain on the carpet. And there's a very big blood stain, maybe 6 inches from the carpet on the wall, that is head-shaped, if you will. Yes. And there is blood spatter all over the wall. There is a round indentation, like the end of a baseball bat, in the wall, about an inch from the ground, from the carpet. Near the giant blood stain, there is blood spatter and kind of a smear into the bathroom, into the hallway. There is blood on the back of the door. If you were to shut the bedroom door, there is blood all over the door, from the bottom of the door to the top of the door.
Oh.
There's a bloody handprint in the middle of the door. And so the detective, she is saying this is one of the most gruesome crime scenes she has ever seen. So they pull out Tom and Molly.
I'll tell you what, Detective Jen, right? I'm coming in. If there's that much blood, we've heard that he was getting strangled. So that he said that he saw his son-in-law
strangling his daughter.
And so he hit him in the back of the head with a bat.
Yep.
1, where'd the bat come from? 2, if you're trying to get somebody off your daughter and you hit him once with a bat, I don't think you get a chance to inflict that kind of damage in that many rooms.
Yeah.
So it sounds like Tom fucked up immediately.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they pull out Tom and Molly, out of the house. We see their pictures, and they have no blood on them. None of them have blood on them. And ladies and gentlemen, I have watched a show called Dexter. I don't know if you've ever heard of this.
Yeah, Dexter, he that's his whole job, which then in turn has educated America. Basically, we could all do his job now.
Covered in blood. Covered in blood. When you kill someone and or bludgeon someone to death, you are covered in blood, and neither of these people had blood on them anywhere. Underneath their fingernails, on their face, the front of them, the back of them, in their hair, nothing. And there are 2 young children in the home, a boy and a girl. So they are Jack and Sarah. They are, I think, 7 and 9. They are in the home as well. They're sleeping in another room. And apparently Molly's mother, Sharon, is in the home and in the basement asleep as well, is what we come to find out.
So do they live? Does Tom and Sharon live in the house, or are they just visiting?
We find out they have come to visit the home. Oh, Molly says in the police interview, Sarah, their 7-year-old daughter, woke up from a dream and was scared, and she accidentally woke up Jason, the deceased. Jason became angry, and Molly and Jason began to fight, and Jason began to choke Molly, and Tom, Molly's father, heard the fight downstairs from the basement where he was asleep, came upstairs, and she said her dad came in and hit Jason over the head with the baseball bat. So Molly said that Jason had her around the neck with his hands on the front of her neck. So Tom's story is, I heard them arguing when I was in bed. I immediately got out of bed and took the baseball bat upstairs. I don't understand that. I was watching it with Steve, and he looked at me and goes, What? What is that? Why would you do that? That makes 0 sense. If you hear an argument between anybody in your home, why is the first thing you do to grab a baseball bat? So he said, I grabbed the bat, went upstairs, kicked open the door, and found Jason. He had his forearm around Molly. He was behind her, had his forearm around Molly, and said, get your effing arm off my daughter. Jason said, I'm going to kill her. And they began to walk backwards into the bathroom. And Tom said he followed them into the bathroom, hit him over the head with the baseball bat. Molly squirmed away from him. Jason grabbed the bat from Tom. Molly picked up a cinder block that happened to be on her nightstand.
In this big, gorgeous house?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Whoa.
And hit Jason on the other side of the head, maybe the shoulder, and then he didn't get up, and then he was dead. So that is their story that they're telling the police. And the police are like, huh? Wait, what? The police are not buying either of these stories at all. Then they find out Mom is downstairs asleep. So then they go ask Mom. Mom says, well, yeah, I heard screaming. I heard a thump. My husband got out of bed. I rolled over and went back to sleep. Yes. Yeah. So again, that makes zero sense. The detective says, well, in North Carolina, we do have a law that you can defend yourself, right? You have the right to defend yourself. But once that defense is over, you have to stop. You can't beat someone to death. And she said they clearly beat him to death. Who's the victim? The people that don't have one scratch or a drop of blood on them, or the man that has his head and face bashed in, because there's so much blood in this house. We get a little bit of a background about Molly and Jason. Jason was married previously. These two beautiful children are not Molly's children. He was married previously. He is from Ireland and has this beautiful Irish accent. The children have a beautiful Irish accent. And he was married to a beautiful Irish woman. And she died of a freak asthma attack when his son was 3 and his daughter was 18 months old. So he advertised for an au pair, and Molly came into the picture when she was in her early 20s. And they were about, 6 or 8 years apart, Jason and Molly. And so she answered the ad, went over to Ireland, and they began a relationship.
That should be like a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, that's how they began to be a couple. Their relationship was really rocky in the beginning. They showed us some emails between the two of them. She really wanted to fast track their relationship. He wanted to slow it down. He would say things like, I don't want to traumatize my kids if we don't work out. I really want to slow it down. She would say, I'm not going to be strung along. I'm not going to wait forever. So he felt pressured. He finally asked her to marry him. They talked about it. She said, let's bring the kids up in the United States. They moved to the United States. They interviewed the kids, and the kids said, we remember moving to the U.S. We really loved it. Everybody was so friendly. We got to play t-ball and go swimming, and the house was huge, and we loved the neighborhood, and Dad was our coach on our team, and everything was good for a little bit. Then we meet Jason's sister. So Jason comes from a big Irish family. There's a lot of siblings. We meet one of his sisters, named Tracy, and she said, yeah, from the outside, Molly and Jason were a really great couple. We came to the United States when they got married, and it seemed really great. Tracy, his sister, says the day of the wedding was really strange. I was talking to the bridesmaid, Susie, and Susie was just reminiscing with me, and she said, this is just such a great love story, how Molly went over to Ireland to be Jack and Sarah's godmother because she was Margaret's high school friend from Ireland. And Tracy says, excuse me? Wait, what? And Susie says, yeah, she was Margaret's high school friend, and Margaret is Jason's first wife, the kids' mother. And Tracy says, no, Molly was the kids' au pair. She was never their godmother and does not know Margaret. Tracy starts to talk to some more people at the wedding, some other neighbors and friends, and Molly had systematically lied and told different little stories that she had given birth to Sarah. She had surrogacy by Sarah. So she had all of these different lies about how Sarah came into her life or how Jason came into her life. And so the police were very interested in that because now they can't trust anything that Molly says about, obviously, the death of Jason, right?
No. So she didn't even keep her story straight.
Correct.
Before anything happened, how their relationship started.
Right. So she's a little erratic in the beginning anyway. And Tracy, his sister, picked up on that, was like, yeah, this is weird anyway. Then we go back to find out that Tom, Molly's dad, is a retired FBI agent and should know better. Anyway, so we go back to listening to a little bit of his more police interviews about the night of the murder. He's saying, I'm a retired FBI agent. I worked in the criminal division. I used to train new detectives on how to do interviews, how to be interviewed. And so now all the police detectives are like, yeah, we're not going to trust anything this guy tells us. Then Tom says, yeah, we were all afraid of Jason because he was into martial arts. He did MMA fighting. And he was in the Irish Republican Army. And the police were like, really? They did some investigating and asked Tracy. And Tracy was like, absolutely not. None of that is real. Tom is trying to spin the narrative that Jason is this aggressor and this hostile, violent person. And he has absolutely not. So
was Jason in like really good shape?
No, Jason had a dad bod. Jason was probably 210, 15, 20 pounds, had a tummy, was chunky, and no, absolutely not. Not even close to being an MMA fighter. Now they can't believe anything Tom says. They show pictures of this cinder block. A cinder block is this big. It is huge.
Yeah.
And it is covered in blood. It is so blood-soaked, and it has Jason's hair. Part of his skull is on this cinder block, on how many times they hit this man over the head with a cinder block. Why do they have a cinder block on her nightstand? Within 48 hours. So Molly does not have guardianship. She does not have custody. She has not adopted these children. These children are not American citizens. They're Irish citizens. So within 48 hours, she has filed for guardianship. She's filed for custody of these kids. And in Jason's will, he has named Tracy, his sister, and her husband as the kids' guardians. So the kids are to go to Tracy
back to Ireland.
Yes.
So I have to ask a question. How long were they married before?
They were married for 5 years.
So that seems like a long time.
Yes.
To not get that paperwork done.
Yes. And they do discuss that quite often because Molly would say a lot, I want to adopt the kids. And she even said, as part of the wedding, they were going to have an adoption ceremony. And Jason always said, no, I don't want you to adopt my kids. Don't want you to have guardianship of my kids. He even thought there was some red flags with Molly and didn't want Molly to have any sort of custody rights or roles to his children, because he just had a little weird inkling about her, but still was in a relationship with her. He did a little bit of investigating without her knowledge, asking a couple of attorneys, saying, if there was something to ever happen to me, where would the kids go? Would Molly have access to the kids automatically? Could the kids choose what would happen to the kids? And the attorney would say, look, up until a certain age, the kids don't get to choose. If the kids are 13 and older, they can go to a judge and say, I want this person or this person. If they're under that age, they don't get to choose. You have to write it down in a will saying, I want my kids to go here, or she gets to fight for them. And so he never would let her adopt the kids. And so they would fight constantly about it. She would say he would use it as a control mechanism to either keep her in the relationship or to abuse her mentally or verbally in the relationship. So yeah, that was part of a back and forth with them. So she filed within 48 hours. Tracy and David his sister and brother-in-law were in the United States within 48 hours to pick up the kids. Molly refused to let the kids be seen, talked to on the phone, anything to Tracy and David. Molly refused to let Tracy and David see Jason's body. They weren't allowed to go to the funeral home at the funeral director. So it took Tracy 4 days in the court system to get anything done with the kids or Jason's body. So she finally did get to see the kids. She finally got to see Jason's body, and she said it was absolutely horrific. She said she didn't understand how much hatred that they had for Jason to be able to do that to him. So 8 days later, they end up having Jack and Sarah, the children, go to a child advocacy center to be interviewed. They show the interview, and Jack and Sarah both independently say that Jason physically and verbally abused Molly, would yell at her a lot, would yell at them a lot, said that they had a secret code word. If their grandma called, they could say an individual code word that dad was being mean or scary, and that grandma would come over to the house and pick them up, that they had grandma's phone number underneath a doll in their bedroom that dad didn't know about. So that was very scary for everybody. Nobody knew that Jason had this temper and was a very violent person. Jack was 10 and Sarah was 8. And a lot of their interview, though, the psychologist would say, well, how do you know that? And the kids would say, well, my mom told me. And they would call Molly mom. Well, my mom told me. Well, my mom told me. And Jack would use words like physically and verbally abusive. So he's 10. I don't know necessarily that a 10-year-old would know those words. Maybe. I don't know.
That's just not common vernacular. Like, he would describe it. He wouldn't necessarily use that word.
Yeah. The other thing that I personally thought of watching it was thinking about maybe my grandchildren. If my grandchildren were interviewed after their father or mother was murdered, and it was 4-6 days later, they would be so upset and just crying and emotional and a mess. And these kids were perfectly fine. They were almost stoic and unemotional, and it was kind of disturbing to watch. And I didn't understand that either as a viewer. So it was very strange. And the prosecutor and the state had pointed that out as well. And so did the detective. And the detective even said these children were coached by Molly, 100%. So Molly had coached these kids. About 2 weeks later, Molly goes to court to get actual custody of the kids and to prove that she could be a better mother, I guess, than Tracy. And the court awards Tracy custody of the kids and says he's got a will. It says these kids are need to go back to Ireland. They're Irish citizens. They need to be surrounded by their family and their culture. And so these kids are going to go to Ireland. The children only know Molly as their mother. So they're very traumatized by literally being ripped away from her. Sarah has known her since she was 18 months old. They go to Ireland. Sarah and Jack say, we didn't really know Tracy. We didn't want to give them a chance. We were really scared. We only knew Molly. Molly had told us, nobody will ever love you like I love you. They don't know you. All of these kind of negative things. So we were really scared. But they went to Ireland and they did okay, but they didn't do okay. Jack said, I missed North Carolina. I missed all my friends. I didn't fit in really well. Sarah started to fit in better than I did, but I really missed North Carolina. Molly wasn't allowed to contact the kids, but she was contacting them through social media, like through Facebook. She was just barraging them with posts saying, I love you, please call me, I miss you, and it was constant. And the kids were really confused about it and really traumatized by it. So they couldn't.
Tracy said no messaging. Tracy was like, hard rule.
Yes.
I don't trust any of this.
Yes.
She's not safe. You're done.
Yes. And so the kids were very confused because they knew Molly as her mom, but they also wanted to settle in and feel safe with Tracy. But Molly wouldn't stop trying to contact them. So they finally had to block everything from the kids, all the social media, change everything, change phone numbers. And Molly finally stopped. It finally went dark. Jack really didn't take that well. Called Molly, left her a voicemail, a secret voicemail, and cried and said, please don't tell anybody I called you. Please don't release this to the public, but I miss you. I'm not doing well. I just wanted to tell you I love you. Molly released it to the public, released it to the news. Jack then said, okay, that tells me who you are. He started to not trust Molly after that, was very upset about Molly's betrayal with the voicemail. So then we go back to the police, and the police did a toxicology on Jason's body because Tom and Molly had said that Jason, at the time of the murder, was just drop down drunk. He was sloppy drunk. He was falling all over the place. He smelled like alcohol. And they get the toxicology report back, and his blood alcohol was 0.02. So no. And also, he had a drug called trazodone, if everybody knows what that is, in his system.
I don't know what trazodone is.
Trazodone is a tranquilizer.
Oh.
That he is not prescribed. He does not have a prescription for that. But guess who has a prescription for that?
Me?
Yeah, she sure does.
So, Tom, I thought he was an FBI agent. He's... I feel like you and I would be better murderers than this.
Yeah, pretty sure. So, right, I'm pretty sure they caught this poor man off guard. He was a little sleepy. But, so they said, yeah, there's no way he was drunk. So they lied about that. They go back to the crime scene and how much blood there was. There was blood in multiple rooms. There was blood in the hallway, blood in the master bedroom, blood in the bedroom or in the bathroom, and blood on the back of the door. They said the blood on the back of the door and the handprint on the back of the door was significant and interesting to them because one of their theories was Molly was hitting him with the cinder block with the door closed, and then Tom came in and finished him off with the bat. They said in the autopsy report, Jason had so many abrasions on his forehead, under his eyes, and on one of his shoulder blades. And the pathologist said he had so many blows to his head that they overlapped, that they couldn't count them. And as they were trying to count him, part of his skull fell off onto the autopsy table. And the prosecutor began to cry, just looking at these pictures and talking about it. And he said, the amount of hatred that you have to do this to another human being. And then they showed the cinder block again. He said, is unfathomable. I will tell you, watching this show, I cried probably 5 times, listening to these children, watching this prosecutor cry, and looking at this crime scene photos was incredible. These crime scene photos are not grayed out. They are not black and white. They are in color, and it is quite horrific. So they said at no point was Jason the aggressor in this. They said Molly and Tom were. So they charge Tom and Molly with second-degree murder.
What's the difference between first-degree murder and second-degree murder?
First-degree is intent, is I am planning, I've made a plan, I've written it out, I'm driving to your house and I'm shooting you in the head. Second-degree is you're choking me, I'm turning around and beating you to get you off of me. See the difference?
I do. I feel like this sounds like first-degree murder.
Yeah.
There was trazodone and
and
a cinder block on our nightstand.
Yeah, but they're having they're having a hard time proving all of that, so they're going to go with the second degree.
Like they feel like that they have a better shot at getting it, like you explained last time.
Yeah, okay. Right. So 9 months after the murder, Jack is so upset about Molly's betrayal with the voicemail, he decides to call the detective and call the prosecutor and say, I want to recant what I said at the children's advocacy. And he does this interview again with another psychologist with the prosecutor and said, Molly told me to say everything. Molly coached me. She told me if I didn't say it, you were going to take me away from her. And she told me to say these specific words. So now they have Jack and both Sarah recanted everything they said at the advocacy center almost a year ago. He said, those were all made up stories. My dad is a good person. I never ever saw him hit Molly. Never ever saw him yell at her. He never hit us. None of that ever happened. With that interview, with everything that they had, the prosecutor convinced the judge to keep out the original interview from the advocacy center from the jury. So the jury didn't get to see in their trial the original interview, the 6 or 8 days after the murder of the kid saying, yes, he was verbally abusive and yes, he hurt my mom. So the jury never saw that. It takes them 2 years to have the trial. They're found guilty. Both of them are found guilty, and they both are sentenced to between 20 and 25 years to prison. So Molly and Tom go to prison, and Jack and Sarah are now teenagers, right? 13 and 15-ish years old. They're still living in Ireland. They're living with Tracy and David, who have 2 other sons of their own biologically, and they're doing really, really well. They're calling Tracy and David mom and dad, and they're just really, really happy, and everything is great. And then the bottom drops out from underneath them. Molly and Tom hire appellate attorneys. So they're going to appeal their conviction, and they're appealing it, saying that Jason was a domestic abuser, and that the recantation of Sarah and Jack was coached by Tracy now. So they ask for a new trial. All of these attorneys go and do all of this digging into Jason's background. They find Jason went to the doctor 2 weeks before he was murdered, saying, I feel angry all the time. I don't know why I'm angry all the time. They have friends and neighbors that will testify on Molly's behalf that they've either seen Jason verbally abusive to her, they've heard Jason verbally abusive to her, they have heard Molly tell them stories that he was verbally abusive to her. They go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court overturns their conviction and grants them a new jury trial.
Okay.
So Molly and Tom are released from prison, and Jack and Sarah are devastated. They're really upset. And yeah, they videotape themselves crying, saying, why did they get to walk free? This isn't fair. While you're watching this documentary, Molly and Tom are being interviewed. And the entire time I am watching Molly speak, all I can think of is Amber Heard.
Oh, okay.
And I am not joking. She gives off just the worst liar, the worst manipulator, the worst gaslighter on the planet. She is the worst of the female species. I can't even begin to explain. They get all these things together, and then Molly begins to explain what else she has done in the home. So Molly says there is a neighborhood friend, which I don't believe exists. That's an attorney that tells her, you need to secretly record your husband without his knowledge. Amber Heard, again. So she gets these recording devices that are voice activated and puts them around her house. And Jason doesn't know that they're there. Puts them under cupboards. She puts them underneath coffee tables. She puts them in his car. She puts them under nightstands. And so we hear a couple of them. And there's a fight about making dinner. He is getting angry at her. She's getting angry at him. And I will tell you, if that is him being an abuser, then my husband and I are abusers. Like, it is not, I don't think it sounded like anything, but of course, these attorneys hire these special psychologists that go over the tapes and say, Jason is an abuser because of XYZ on these tapes. So they go over it. Molly talks about it. She's crying the whole time, saying he domestically abused me our entire relationship. If I had a different hairstyle, he would say, who are you going to see? He wouldn't let me out of the house. She literally was saying, I swear to God, word for word, what Amber Heard was saying in these trials. And it was so gross to watch. No, but I swear she was not believable at all. And of course, Jason is not alive to defend himself. So she can control the narrative with these recordings that he has no idea are there. But thank God one day Jack finds the one in his car, in Jason's car, and shows it to his dad. And his dad is devastated and says, so Jack and Sarah and Jason are in the car, and Jack shows it to him. And Jason says, how would you guys like to move back to Ireland? And Sarah says, without mommy. And Jason says, yeah, without mommy. And so Jason talks to a friend, and I think Jason was planning on leaving Molly, and I think Molly knew it. And I think that's why this whole thing happened. We don't have any record of that, but Jack said he found the recording device right before that. Anyway, so Jason was devastated, wanted to leave. Anyway, so the state says Molly does these recording devices. So she could take these recording devices, she could present them in front of a judge, she could get a civil protection restraining order, she could get Jason out of the house, then she could apply for custody of the kids, and she could have the kids. That's what the state's theory was of why she did these recordings, which is literally spot on, which is literally what I see every day at work, which is what people do all the time, which is a total Amber Heard thing to do. So,
to create evidence.
Correct. That is
and
not.
Then she can pick and choose
correct.
What's going to be seen.
Correct.
Oh,
it's disgusting. The state thinks that Molly wanted to create a fake fight between her and Jason in front of her parents or in front of her dad. And it went awry. It went the wrong way. This murder happened, and Molly was like, I don't care if he lives or dies. It just went wrong. It just swung the wrong way. 7 years after Jason's murder, we are now in 2022. They have a pretrial for the new trial, and they set the jury trial for 2023. Jack and Sarah show up. They fly from Ireland to North Carolina. Tom and Molly refuse to even acknowledge Jack and Sarah at the hearing. They don't even look at them. They don't do anything with them. They just set the trial date. Jack and Sarah fly back to Ireland and are very upset that it's going to be another 8 months before they have the jury trial. And
can I ask a question?
Yes.
So the mom was like, I heard screaming and a thud, and then I went back to sleep.
Yep.
Is the mom there for any of this? Or did she stick by Tom, or did she?
We don't see the mom at any of this. I don't know where she is. We don't see her at all. Now, we're waiting for this new jury trial to start. Tom has decided to tell the appellate attorneys, oh, guess what? I had a conversation, just conveniently I remembered this, with Jason's dead wife's dad when my daughter married Jason, because I wanted to get to know Jason. So when they married, I talked to her dad about Jason to get to know him. Her dad said, Jason killed my daughter. He strangled her to death. So Jason is an abuser. I saw Jason strangle my daughter, and so you need to look into him strangling his first wife. So now they have to go into his first wife's death. They're digging up her autopsy report and looking into whether she actually died of an asthma attack. They give it to another forensic pathologist, and she looks at the autopsy report, and she's like, no, this isn't an asthma attack. It's a strangulation. And the state looks at their pathologist, and their pathologist says, no, this is an asthma attack. They all come together, and the prosecutor says, look, if we go to a jury trial and the defense says, we have a pathologist that looks at his first wife's autopsy report, and we say that he killed her from manual strangulation, and Jason has attempted to manually strangle Molly, and the only reason why she's here is because Tom intervened. That is the only thing the jury is going to hear. And we don't want that. Even if Jack and Sarah get on the stand and testify chef's kiss and it's beautiful and they do a great job, all the jury is going to hear, Jason strangled his first wife, Jason strangled Molly, they're going to walk free and they're going to be found not guilty. And we don't want to take that chance. Mm-hmm. So we're going to offer them a plea deal of voluntary manslaughter and I'm going to throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. Mm-hmm. Both Molly and Tom agree to this plea deal of voluntary manslaughter and go in front of the judge to see what the judge will do. They reduce the charge to the voluntary manslaughter for both of them, and they have a sentencing hearing. Both Jack and Sarah are very, very upset about the reduced plea deal. Very upset. They don't understand how the court system works. They don't understand how juries work. I understand it. I watch it every single day. They don't understand it. They don't think it's fair. There was nothing voluntary about this murder. There was nothing voluntary about Jason's death. He didn't choose to be murdered, right? They're very upset about it. Now we are 8 years after the death. It is 2023. They go to the sentencing, and the defense, trots in all of these people, the friends that say in front of the judge, the friends that say, yes, Jason verbally and physically abused Molly. The autopsy, yes, this forensic pathologist said, yes, Jason strangled his first wife. All of this that they were going to produce in front of the jury. Then the state does the same thing with their side. Then Jack and Sarah at the end get to do their victim impact statement, and they get to look at Molly and Tom and say, you ruined our lives. To the judge, please don't look at this, what they're putting in front of you, their manipulation and what you think is true, because they're liars. They killed my dad on purpose. And so the judge sentences them to between 51 and 74 months.
Oh, shit.
In prison.
Years.
Yes. So in the interim, when they did their first trial and they were found guilty, they spent 3 years in jail, in prison. This 51 to 74 months only equals out to another 7 months in prison. So Tom and Molly only spend 7 more months in jail, and then they get out. And that's how we're at Molly and Tom doing this interview in street clothes, in a home, perfectly fine and without a care in the world. It is very difficult to watch. Jack and Sarah are doing well, obviously, right now. They're in Ireland. They don't talk to Molly. They don't think about Molly. They don't have interaction with Molly. Molly has a permanent criminal no contact order with them. She's never allowed to speak to them, never allowed to get a hold of them on any media site, social media context at all. They don't want to have anything to do with her at all. But I was talking to a coworker today about it. Her theory is, and I find this very interesting, that Molly killed Jason completely, just murdered him outright by herself, and her parents drove over there after the fact, and Tom tried to take the blame for her, which would make sense because the mom made up this weird bullshit story of like, oh yeah, I was asleep, rolled over and went back to sleep. And plus, neither of them had blood on them at all. The dad had no blood on him at all.
That seems very plausible.
Yeah.
What a fucked up. And she's just like living her life.
Yep, she's living her best life right now. Just out, not a care in the world. Completely fine. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. If you don't feel comfortable with the woman that you're romantic with adopting your children, then probably trust your gut.
You should still watch it anyway. It's really good.
Did they ever find the first wife's dad? Did he die so they couldn't interview him or something?
So he did die of cancer. They did talk to him. They went back to him before he died of cancer. So the mom is still alive, and the sister was there during the asthma attack and said he never strangled her. I was there. She had an asthma attack. I don't know what he's talking about. But the dad said, he wrote out a statement and signed it and said, I met Tom once. I never spoke about my daughter, and I sure as shit never said Jason strangled my daughter. Signed an affidavit under oath and said, he's a liar. And they gave that. So how does
that get to be, but they still got to admit the lie is evidence?
Yep. It's gross. I mean, yep. And even in court, one of the worst things that Sarah said, and she's just sobbing saying it, she said, one of the worst things that hurt me was Molly said, the two things that were in common with these deaths were when my biological mom died was she was feeding me when she had her asthma attack. And when my dad died, I woke up and had a bad dream. So I'm at fault for both of my parents dying. And I was like, oh my God, she is the worst woman on the planet. And she is just crying and crying. She's like, why would you say that? Why would you blame me? I was just a child. I'm still a child. And why would you say that? I mean, it's just horrific. This woman is psychotic. Is a monster. Yeah. And Molly talks like she is just lovely, and why wouldn't anybody like her, and why wouldn't anybody believe her? And she was so abused, and you need to feel sorry for her. No, I don't know of any human being that would believe her. I really don't know. Steve didn't believe her. We watched it together, and he was like, yeah, nope, you should still watch it. It's really good.
That's on Netflix?
Netflix. Yeah.
Netflix, everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
So good.
I will do better homework next week.
Okay.
But thanks for story time.
Yes. That was really long, everybody. Sorry.
That's not too bad. Oh, well. We'll edit. It'll be fine. Well, Next week we've got episode 6 of The Valley and something else that we'll come up with. And I just have to say, we forgot to commemorate. Last episode was episode 25 for us.
Yay!
We got a quarter of 100. We got 25 cents out of this dollar.
Yeah, man.
I think it's going pretty well. So good job,
awesome.
Us. Yeah. And thanks, everybody, for listening. And tell us who your celebrity hall pass is in the comments. And are you team Nia and Danny? Or are you team... I guess Britt and Jasmine?
Yeah, I guess.
I want to fight about it.
No.
So let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.